I am bang on target today at 1 p.m. And I just want to welcome you to this first Instagram live session that we're hosting. And today is really all about Excel. And with UPvisor, we are here to help you to improve the profitability as well as the productivity of your business. And Excel is just one of those small ways in which you are able to improve your productivity. So we asked you over the past few days to send some questions, things about Excel that frustrate you, things that take really long that you wish could be better. If you do have any other questions, you are welcome to pop them in the comments. We might not get to them during the session, but I'm hoping that this is going to be something that we can roll out on a continuous basis. So questions that we don't answer today, we can answer over the next few weeks. So every Thursday at 1 p.m. we will be coming live, hopefully, if all things work together, and you can get your weekly Excel fill or any other productivity tips and hacks that we might have to share with you. Okay, so some of the questions that we received over the past few days, I will be answering today, but I won't go through all of them. We will be having a look at a few others during the next week's session. Okay, so firstly, we had a question that was all about asking about how we save our work automatically. So we're busy working and we don't want to see that white screen. You know, sometimes that white screen comes and our whole Excel just crashes. And if we have not been saving regularly, then that disappears. All of our hard work is just gone. So we have some ways that we can change our autosave options. And the way that you do that is when you launch your Excel file, you will see that there's a button on the top left-hand side, which is called File. If you go all the way to the end, you will see that it says Options. And now when the Options window launches or the dialog box launches, then you will see that there's a tab that's called Save. We'll go to Save, and right there, I think it's about the third or the fourth line, you will see that there's an option to change how frequently your file auto recovers or auto saves. And by default, I think it's set on about 10 minutes, but if you want to have it happen more frequently, you can change it there, or if you want it less frequently, you can change it to 30 minutes. And if you are ever in a situation where your computer crashes, then you will find the place where it saves that file is also under your save options. Hi Benevolence, thank you for joining us. So you can go see where that file gets saved by clicking on your file options under save, and then you will see the location where it saves. So if ever your file crashes and you don't know where to go find it, you can just go check your file location and go look in there to find your recovered file. Okay, so that was the first question. Then our next question was very vague. It just said that they struggle with the formulas. Okay, so Excel has a lot of formulas. It goes from very basic to very complex, but in essence, there are a handful of formulas that people will use on a regular basis. Now, some of the basic ones that we cover as part of our basic Excel training course is things like sum, which calculates the total, min, which is the minimum, max, which would calculate the maximum, and you can even calculate an average. Okay, there are a lot of other options, things like VLOOKUPs and if functions, and we'll have a look at those in the next session. But really the basic structure of putting a function together is to start with your equal sign. You always need to put in the equal sign for Excel to know that you are doing a calculation. So in the same way that on your calculator, you will go type in your formula, so 10 plus 5, you will press equal. And the equal sign will tell your calculator that it needs to calculate something. Excel is exactly the same. The only difference is the equal sign gets placed in the beginning of the cell. You'll start with your equal sign, you'll type in your function, sum, min, max, whatever, open the bracket, and then within that you will be able to, hi Terence, I see that you have asked to join the live video, we can do that just now. Now I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so equal sign, put in your function, open your bracket, you'll select the cells that you are wanting to include. So I would always recommend using a cell reference rather than numbers. We don't want to say equals sum, open bracket, 10 plus 5. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're saving time, right? So instead of having the 10 and the 5, we will link to the cells that contain the 10 and the 5. Okay, and then once you have selected all of your cell references that you want to include in your formula, you will close your bracket, press enter, and voila, automatically Excel will calculate this function. So that's the basic structure of any formula that we have within Excel. The only difference to some of the more complicated ones is you have to start selecting very specific cells based on the input that is required. Okay, so as I said, I will talk more about the if function and the VLOOKUP next week. Okay. Then the third question was about creating an accounting or a management system. Now this question is complicated. It can be really complicated, but it can also be quite simple. It really just depends on what you're wanting to achieve. So I will explain to you what I would go and do just as a starting point, and then from there it can grow. So firstly, if you're wanting to create an accounting system, you need to understand what sort of information you need in the accounting system. So if you are wanting to populate information to get to an income statement or to get to a balance sheet, if you want to see your cash balances or see how much profit you've made, that is really what's going to determine what type of spreadsheet you're setting up. Okay, so if we're wanting to generate an income statement, for example, so where we can track our sales, track our expenses, and eventually get to our profit, then the way that I would do it is to start off with all of your transactions. So every time that you swipe your card, every time that there's money that comes off of your bank account, you populate that in Excel. And in your Excel spreadsheet, you might have headings that say the date on which it occurred, the vendor, so the person that you bought it from, what kind of cost it was it for fuel, was it for food, printing and stationery, whatever the case might be. Okay, you put in what it was for with the amount. And then once you've done that, and you can determine what type of, where that type of cost needs to go in your trial balance, okay? The trial balance is basically a list of all of the totals that you have that will pull into your income statement, okay? So you will use the mapping in your transactions listing to determine what pulls through into the trial balance and where. And then from there, once you have your trial balance, and we might use some fancy formulas here, okay, so like a sum if or a sum ifs function, which is as part of our intermediate training, you will learn more about those. But once you've pulled that through into your trial balance, from there you can then start populating an income statement. Okay, so once you've done the income statement and you've got your balance sheet, then that is really where you can start working with some of that information and start analyzing your income, your profits, and your cash flow. Okay, so you might even want to use some VLOOKUP functions as part of getting the trial balance into the income statement. And there are very complicated ones like index and match. You might have heard of that before. But really all it's doing is it's saying what information am I looking for and where can I find it. So that would really be the basis of an accounting management system. First, get all of your transactions listed, and then from there you can start pulling it into the income statement or the balance sheet. Now, I've set up very complicated sheets before for monthly management reporting, things with budgets, forecasts, and all sorts of things. Okay, so if you are battling to set up your income statement or your normal reporting, whatever it is that you need, if you want to do it yourself, come join us for some Excel training. Or otherwise, you are always welcome to consult with me, and I can help you set up that template that you need to save you time, so you don't have to worry anymore about making sure you're getting the right information out of your transactions. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, we have a few questions that I won't be answering today that I will transfer to next week. Okay, so at the moment that will be if functions and VLOOKUPs, but please do keep submitting any other questions you might have, and then we will address them during one of our next sessions. In the meantime, we will be hosting an online Excel training session for basic as well as intermediate during July. And I would like to invite you to let us know if you are interested, because we're trying to get a nice group together. We've already got 3 people. We need to build that group a little bit. So it will be taking place on Zoom. Our basic session is normally over one full day if it's in person, but what we will do for Zoom, just because, you know, Zoom fatigue is a real thing, we will be splitting it over 2 days from 8 until 1 and 8 until 1 on the second day. Now, all of our Excel training sessions that we host have tests of competence, okay, to make sure that you can actually pass. And if you pass our very high standards, then you will be able to get your certificate of competence as well. So in our basic session, which is the first one we'll be hosting, you will be learning about the fundamentals of Excel. You learn about some of those basic functions I mentioned, some min, max, a couple of others. We have learn about 9 different functions during that time, and you will learn how to format your data. You will learn how to print well and actually be able to present your information clearly and in a way that is understandable. We also look at a few charts during that session. So if you're interested, then do drop a comment below. We do have limited spots available, so make sure that you let us know. I'm hoping to get a nice group together of about 6 to 10 people to make sure that we have nice, good interaction and still be able to share screens and ask questions. So I'm really excited to get that off the ground. So we will be sending a bit more information about that. We don't have anyone else with questions, so I'm going to close out this one for now, and then we will catch up again next week, Thursday, same time, same place, and we will address if functions and VLOOKUPs, any other questions that might come along our way. So until next week, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.